thanks everybody for coming, and thank you panel for being here. It's great. My name is Stephen Estes. I'm your moderator for this evening, and I'm also here to represent CLA. We are a tax and audit professional services firm. We're one of the top 10 firms in the country, but that really doesn't really begin to tell you who we are or what differentiates us in the marketplace. So I'll share with you a little bit about CLA. So first off, CLA really exists to create opportunities for our clients. We take an industry-driven approach to what we do. So all of the professionals that you'll meet here tonight all specialize in one industry, in this case, technology. But really beyond that, we really specialize in venture capital-backed tech companies, right? So we specialize in SaaS and in R&D credits and in qualified small business stock. We specialize in founder disputes. All the things that you would expect to see that are very unique to what you guys are doing. If you're going from pre-revenue to 100 million in 5 years, that may be really unique to most people in the world, but for us, that's just an average Tuesday, right? So that's kind of our bread and butter, if you will. One of the things that we believe wholeheartedly in doing is really getting to know and understand our clients. Right? That's our promise, is to know you and help you. And we partner with our companies when they're very early stage. A lot of them coming right out of Y Combinator and just pre-revenue, needing to stretch that runway, have some efficient tax help, right? Just if it's a tax return, an R&D credit study, what can you guys do to help us? We're pre-revenue. We've only raised $1 million or $5 million to help get them there. And as they scale, we scale with them, right? So we'll bring along a contract CFO, help them with a pitch deck, help them get that Series A funding round, help those companies get onto GAAP basis financials, help them actually do an audited financial statement when the amount of the investment really warrants that, and then help them through their exit or to IPO. So, as you guys go from YC to IPO, we go from being your accountant to your trusted advisor. So really appreciate being up here. It's an honor to be sitting along next to such esteemed colleagues here. I also did want to give a moment to Cody, who wanted to speak out.
Hey everyone, I'm Justin from Cody. I work on the growth team, sales and go-to-market. Just want to give a quick blurb about what we do. So we are one of the sponsors, and we do have 2 products. You are actually sitting in one of the products right now. That is Event Spaces. So for any events, offsites, conferences you guys are doing, Cody can definitely help you out and get you in a space pretty quickly with all the furniture and catering stuff you need. On the other side, we offer office space. So similar to WeWork, but I would say better because it's completely private. So not co-working, and we're not bankrupt, at least yet. But yeah, completely private, turnkey offices. So that's going to be everything like furniture, sparkling water, coffee. It's fully managed and taken care of for you. Wi-Fi, utilities, and everything are set up and included as well. So if anyone needs office space, let me know. We service teams anywhere from 2 people up to 50 to 100 plus. And we're in San Francisco, New York, and LA. So if anyone needs office space, feel free to talk to me.
Okay, so maybe just to get us started, it'd be good to go down the line and we'll have everybody introduce themselves. And I would like to hear from you guys, what really inspired you to start a company in the AI space. And if you would, tell us a little bit about what unique problems really your startup's aiming to solve.
Hello. Thank you. My name is Tracy Young. I'm one of the co-founders of TigerEye. TigerEye is a business simulation engine. We are basically like Moneyball for business. We use the historicals. We help you predict the future. We help you with go-to-market planning. We help you with forecasting, et cetera. I mean, why are we building with AI? It's like AI feels, you can't turn on the news without reading about AI, and it just feels like it's evolving really fast. It's very exciting. And I feel strongly that if you aren't building with AI right now as a startup, it's like 20 years ago, you were a startup that wasn't building software, right? And it's really exciting. It's evolving really fast, and we also think it has the ability to disrupt dinosaur players. Like, this is the first time they have been this vulnerable. So yeah, it's really fun.
Hey everyone, I'm Andy. I am the co-founder of Keywords AI. So I guess I started the company with my co-founder Raymond back in December 2023, where I was working at Apple as a product design engineer. I hated the job and I hated waking up early. So, so I wanted to do something on my own. And GPT, especially ChatGPT, got really popular around that time. So I wanted to do something with it. We landed on an idea of AI called Copilot for job search. And we built that product for about 9 months without having any real users, which was partly because I was a first-time founder with no experience. I think the other part is about there weren't really handy tools for developers to build AI applications with. So that was the problem we ran into, and we decided to pivot into that direction. Right now, we're building a platform that makes it really easy for developers to build AI-powered software. With 2 lines of code, they get a complete DevOps platform that speeds up deploying and monitoring AI apps in production.
Hi, I'm Leah Culver. I'm actually not currently a founder. I'm a 3-time former founder, now mostly doing angel investing. So I don't have a company in the AI space, but I see a lot of companies in the AI space, and happy to talk about that. I think one of the reasons it's so interesting right now is because we're finding out how many different uses AI is applicable for, and it's been really great to see everyone from large companies to very small startups embracing new technology and trying to figure out how to fit this into software products. At the end of the day, companies are still, and actually this is actually a struggle, so if you have a startup, maybe keep this in mind. You're still building an end product for users who need what you're building. And to your point, like listening to what users want and responding to that need. But now there's this new tool that you have to help respond to that need. So keeping that in that context, I don't like seeing companies that are AI or LLMs for LLM's sake. I like seeing things with like a real purpose. Who is your end user? Who is your customer? How does this, corpus of data help that particular user? And I know you have a lot of questions coming up about bias and targeting and some of that. And I think that really comes into play when looking at how your company can use AI to really better reach its customers.
Hey, I'm Neil. I'm the co-founder of Fabius. And why I decided to start an AI company, I mean, I think the biggest thing is AI has unlocked a bunch of problems that used to be unsolvable, and now they are solvable in a scalable way. And so, when you're going to do a startup, you try to figure out like, hey, what are the problems that other people haven't solved well? And the easiest version of that is, what are the problems that nobody has solved before? So what we do at Fabius is we work with sales teams, and especially more traditional sales teams that have a repeatable sales process. And our platform becomes an expert in what they sell. Right? We say that no sales rep actually sells widget 1, 2, 3. They sell something with tangible details about it that's important to nail. So our product becomes an expert in that, and then plugs into the different steps of the sales process, whether that's account research, follow-up emails, the calls themselves, to help reps automate that process and just become better at it.
Hi, everybody. I'm Daniel from JustPaid. So we're one of the hosts along with CLA and Cody. So thank them for helping host this amazing event. What JustPaid is, it's a revenue ops engine for people to get paid when their company is sending out invoices. So we're basically a way to help you scale your company when you have hundreds to thousands of customers and collect that revenue. We're using AI in a lot of parts of our product and looking at AI and everything that's happening in the industry and seeing like what can we apply to generate an invoice to get the money collected.
Hi, my name is Alex. I am co-founder of Higgsfield AI. I basically spent last 8 years of my life working on video generative AI, how actually machines can create something which just didn't exist before. And definitely it feels like this year we will see video generative AI transform, like basically video generative AI evolution from entertainment use cases like those face filters and so on to more professional use cases, actually driving a lot of economic value.
Could you elaborate a little bit on the specific AI technologies or algorithms that your company leverages and maybe how that differentiates your product or service in the marketplace?
Sure. So we use the foundation models primarily from Anthropic and then some from OpenAI as well. And then we also use, I think a lot of our secret sauce is like non-embedding based RAG, so like retrieval augmented generation to figure out how do we sort of collect the right information out of unstructured data, make that into a corpus for a specific customer, and then provide that information at the right time to inform the right decision.
So we use AI in two ways. Old school AI, we use simulation theory on your historicals, and we project out your future. And then obviously the modern AI, generative AI, and large language models. We really believe in open source, so we've like pieced together a bunch of open source stuff, thrown a rag on top. We train on our customers' data, and then we try to give them insights on their business so that they can make better decisions.
So we don't build with generative AI, but we help our customers do. So one thing we did was having a proxy that is compatible with like over 150 models in the world right now, with the same OpenAI SDK. So companies can basically build with us on top of any foundational model and get a lot of API or lower level features like load balancing, handling rate limits, and catching errors and having a fallback and stuff like that to really help them save a lot of time on the development work that they otherwise have to build in-house.
We're a startup, so I would say we're looking at every AI model that's coming out all the time. Primarily, we've been hyper-focused on OpenAI, but Anthropic and all of these other technologies are a real possible use case for us. I think because we're so small and nimble, we're able to like shift between what model, what works. Hence why Andy's on the panel, because we're looking at every model at, if something goes down or whatnot, we might be able to shift over to another model. But we're basically looking at everything that's happening. There's stuff is happening so fast that OpenAI, might not be the best solution for us, like for specific parts of our product. So it's kind of we're looking at like a hybrid model.
I think for us, situation is slightly different, as video generative AI is quite different from LLMs. In LLM worlds, we see a variety of great open source models. We see many great APIs available, and also there are many open source data sets as well. And for video situation, this is completely different. There is no good open source models, no good open source data sets. Sora is not available. Google announced another video model earlier today. It's not available yet. Midjourney didn't announce their video model yet. So we have to actually build our AI stack vertically from ground up and train our own foundational video model.
Now everybody's favorite, corporate ethics and responsibility. So AI ethics and responsible AI usage are hot topics. Now, how does your startup approach ethical considerations in AI development and deployment?
I don't have a startup, so maybe this is a safer person to answer. I am concerned about AI and ethics, but I think, maybe this will be controversial. I think we've a little over-indexed on being cautious in the AI space. I don't think there's been any indication that there's any sort of imminent threat, and kind of still lives in sci-fi fantasy world. Yeah, there's some, kind of ideas of deep fakes and things are a little bit closer to reality than some of the other fears around AI. But it's, my background is actually more in consumer applications and social, and you get to see all sorts of weird things when you build social apps. And one of the things that I've learned in building multiple social products is you don't know what people are going to do. And I'd say the same is probably true for AI. When you build a platform, you don't know what's going to happen. And it's really hard to predict where things might go wonky. I don't think any of us saw hallucinations as like an effective AI. I think we had much other projections of how it's going to destroy humanity or whatever. But it's this really weird artifact that I don't think people saw coming. And so I think it's more important to be on the lookout than it is to be preemptively trying to prevent things that we don't even know are going to happen, but to be aware of what's happening and to be able to react and be flexible and to handle any ethical issues as they arise, as opposed to trying to guess what those ethical issues are going to be.
I think one of the things that's unique about AI is whatever you're sending to these larger companies and corporations, you want to be aware of what's being sent there. So there's HIPAA, which is medical data. You want to be insightful and smart about sending what you send. So there are ethical, considerations there where you just want to make sure you're not sending medical data, or for us, we hold contracts, so being really careful about what data we send over for our company in terms of to some of these companies is a consideration. There's more around ethics. I'm sure we could talk more about that, but maybe, I don't know if Neil or if you want to jump in a second.
Yeah, for sure. Personally, I care the most about the issue of AI content misuse, meaning that AI-generated content is positioned as non-AI generated content, and unfortunately, in some other parts of the world, I think AI is being used very actively for scamming people. I would say we are at a very early stage when companies like Google, Meta, ByteDance, they just started basically entering those AI labels for AI-generated contents. YouTube is doing some work at that space, but it's still very early, and I hope there will be more work around AI-generated content, watermarks, and other sorts of labeling.
Yeah, we've actually ran into one specific ethical piece on our side. So we had customers recently start spiffing their sales team on the output of our product, which basically means that if we score them well on how they did on discovery or selling on a call, they'll get paid more at the end of the month. And so for us, it was really important to figure out how we actually reduce the error for that type of workflow, given that somebody's being paid based on our output. You know, a lot of times we'll say, if something is, 95% correct, that's great. But here, people take really seriously, like, hey, being graded basically based on what an AI is and that affecting their livelihood. So for us, it's like changing our product roadmap to take that kind of responsibility very seriously and increasing the, powerful models that we use, or, double checking those outputs, those types of things for those really critical workflows.
Any company with a lot of data right now is lawyering up. You look at the New York Times, they're suing OpenAI, they're suing Microsoft. You look at the largest record company in the world, they're suing, the big music generator AI company, I forgot their name. Same thing with Getty Images, they have a lawsuit out for companies using their images. And so I think the big debate is, and we're going to see what happens in court, is it okay to be using people's copyrighted data and proprietary data to train these models for generating other stuff? And in our business, we really care about the customer's historicals. And as a business owner, I know that I would be pissed if an AI company was using my data to somehow benefit my competitors or some other companies I don't give a fuck about, right? That's my data. And so we were very conscious about building our architecture in a way where we spin up a virtual private cloud for each of our customers, and we have true customer segmentation. We don't mix your data with some other people's data, and all of the processing is done in their VPC, and then all the AI operations is done in their own single tenant environment. So that's how we're handling it.
Well, Neil, you mentioned 95%, and I think that's fantastic. If we could get AI in the weather system, that'd be fantastic, because those assholes only get about 50% at best. Okay, let's talk about scalability, right? That's critical for any startup. How do you ensure scalability in your AI solutions, especially considering the dynamic nature of the AI technologies?
So during our Y Combinator batch, in the middle, we actually took 2 weeks to not do any selling and feature building, just to focus on our infrastructure to make sure that we can handle a lot of API inference load at any given moment in time. This was inspired by our group partner, Hart, who told us Stripe took 2 years to launch to make sure they don't drop any payments. So we really wanted to make sure we don't drop any request. Even if OpenAI is dropping requests, we would help them catch it and then route back to Anthropic or some other models.
Yeah, I think as a startup, for us, we're thinking about infrastructure quite a bit. Vinay, who's here, was thinking about infrastructure for a long time when we first started the company. So I think it's something that's always on our mind if we start to scale at a rate where it's unbearable for our servers. There is a lot of alternative model large companies now that I think you can look at to like offload and kind of piecemeal what works best for what. And I'm sure we could reach out, like if you get to that point where your servers are overburdened or you're the AI company is overburdened, where you have that conversation with them. It's a good problem to have in some senses, to have that when you're a startup.
One of the major challenges for AI companies is acquiring data for training AI models. Now, how does your company tackle this challenge, and what insights can you share with other startups facing the same or similar challenges?
So the big thing for us is we don't specifically train, like fine tune on our customers' data or anything, but the big thing for us is actually getting all of the context to be able to solve the problem. So the big thing that we've seen is that the increase in performance, accuracy, everything like that comes from having enough situational context that we provide to the model such that it can make the right decision. So the big thing for us is basically integrating with all of the places where customers have this data, even if it's unstructured, anything like that, processing it to make it more understandable to them so that the model, we can then provide it at the right time, and that it's not just like a one-size-fits-all. So like an example could be, hey, a salesperson offers somebody a discount on a call. What's more important is that we know whether that company offers discounts or not, whether the salesperson should have done that, versus like fine-tuning on, recognizing discount conversations or anything like that.
So time is at the heart of TigerEye. We understand your present day business, we understand your historicals, and we have a strong opinion about the future. And the way we do that is we connect to CRM and we connect to ERP, and we snapshot everything every 15 minutes. And what we have is what we call the time stream database, and that is where we use a bunch of machine learning and math and AI to predict the future. So that's how we have our data set.
We actually help our customers get good data. So one example of bad data would be, I think this went viral on Twitter a couple months ago when somebody was trying to fine-tune GPT 3.5. You know what I'm talking about. So basically this person used their Slack messages to try to fine-tune a model that copies their behavior. And once that was done with like a lot of messages, he was testing with the model. This person asked the model to do a job for him, and the reply was, on it, or I'll do it tomorrow. So that was an example of bad data set. So what we do is we help our customers take a percentage of their production logs and run some custom evaluations on them. For example, if the context was precise, if the LLM was hallucinating. And then they're able to basically export these data into a data set that can be marked as the golden data to later on use as either synthetic data or run some fine tune on these to make sure that these are high quality.
Collaborations and partnerships can be vital for a startup's growth, like partnering with a great CPA firm like CLA. Could you discuss any strategic partnerships your company has formed to advance its AI initiatives?
Sure. I think we're looking at a lot of partnerships with some of the startups in the area. So there, we are in Silicon Valley. There's a lot of startups in the area, and they're doing a lot of really interesting things. So some of the startups are hyper-focused on helping generate emails to potential clients, right? So that's one. Another is some startups are doing some really interesting stuff on the accounting side with AI. We're looking at companies like that. There's all different types of different AI type startups now where we can all look with a lens and say, is this someone that's scalable? Can it save us time, resources, help our team? Some of the partnerships are just for leads, right? So like, is an AI company able to help us get leads? Are they doing something interesting that we maybe could get leads from them, and we can help them as well? So I think there's a lot of new light on companies and startups where you're like, how do we help each other grow and not have to hire 30 people or buy a really big expensive piece of software to do something that before was expensive and now you can do it with AI. So that's just some of the things we're thinking about with partnerships.
I think for Higgsfield, we definitely are trying to find companies which have deep connections to marketing teams and their workflows. One of the closest partners for us is definitely Google. Apparently, many large agencies like WPP already use Google to automate their content creation workflows and so on. And but we also have seen that but we also have seen many smaller agencies embracing generative AI as well.
So well, this next question hits a little close to home for me as well, but I wanted to quickly share a couple of interesting findings that I had. I was doing some very hard research last night for today's presentation. So last year, more than 50% of the global venture funding for AI-related startups went to companies headquartered in the Bay Area. This is a stat that's hard to believe, so I got it from Crunchbase. So if it's not true, that's their fault. And then I also 50%, more than 50% of all funding to startups that are in AI went to companies headquartered in Bay Area. So that's pretty impressive. We all know we live in a bubble, but sometimes we need a reminder, right? So also wanted to say that 50% of the startups that graduated from YC's April batch were AI-focused companies. So this is a really greatly timed event. CLA actually announced just last week the acquisition of an AI company ourselves. So we're joining the AI revolution and going to be using our AI to transform the way we work and serve our clients within our own firm. And on that note, one of the issues that we have is bias in the output of AI algorithms. So would love to hear from you guys, particularly in industries where bias decisions could have serious consequences, how you guys address the issue of bias in AI algorithm output.
I can answer some of the question. I think being in the Bay is, it gives you an abnormal advantage to a lot of the startups just because there's a lot of smart investors here. I think Paul Graham, the founder of Y Combinator, said, what's more important, the nerds or the rich individuals? And the nerds tend to fly to where the rich people are, according to Paul Graham. So he said, the rich people are a little more important in the sense that they have to come over. So there's a lot of wealthy, bold investors in Silicon Valley that are willing to take high risks for high reward. And I think, I don't know about the rest of the world, but that's happening here. So I think that they're putting their chips on the table again and saying, we're going to double down and see what we can do with this, with AI and what's happening in this industry.
Yeah, I'm happy to talk about the San Francisco part of the equation. I moved here in 2006, right after college. I'm actually from Minneapolis, Minnesota. How many people are from someplace other than San Francisco? Yeah, I bet it's a lot of folks in the room, right? Like, we come here for opportunity. And when I first started off, I think sort of to what Daniel was saying, like, I didn't actually really know any of the rich people. I was like, how do all these people know all these venture capitalists? I was meeting them for the first time, and they're like 20 years older than me. And I was like, how does one become a venture capitalist? How does anybody know anybody? And now, 20 years later, all of my friends are venture capitalists. I'm an angel investor. All my friends are angel investors. We went from being the people building the technology to then turning around and funding the next generation of technologists. And that's sort of the cycle that happens here. And it's great to see that happen over and over again with Web 1.0, Web 2.0, blockchain, AI. You're seeing these waves of new technologies come, and then some of the folks in previous generations of technologies working to help support that new culture. So it just keeps going. I'm so happy that AI is here. Like, thank you, Sam Altman and OpenAI, for sticking around the Bay Area. Very exciting. And if you want, come up, talk to me later about politics. I just recently got involved more in politics. Gary Tan from Y Combinator is very involved in politics, and I am as well. And we're trying to keep San Francisco and the Bay Area very tech friendly, and it's kind of a battle sometimes, as you may know. So happy to chat more about that. But that's the San Francisco side of things.
So we partner with a company in our YC batch called Relari. They are building an open source framework to run LLM evaluations. I think it's pretty important to have metrics in your production system to make sure that at least you're capturing some idea of how good the outputs are and find ways to improve that, whether if it's through prompt engineering or fine-tuning. And a lot of these methods actually work pretty well, I would say.
So we're the business simulation engine. We're the money ball for business. Any questions that come our way is usually about the business. And, it could be something simple like, how much money did I make? Well, time is a really important piece of that question that you might not ask that gets into the box, right? And so we really care about time. how's my business today, like from quarter to date, or like this month, or are we talking about year to date? That really matters. And so making sure we have we're completely time aware is part of making sure that maybe it's not hallucination, but just like misunderstanding the question. The other way we're handling it is making sure that our answers are, we're like giving more than just written answer back to our customers. So giving them a graph to show them their business over time. If they're asking some geographic question about their territories, physically showing their territories on a map and the people involved, and like getting to see the different parts of TigerEye as a response back. And then I think the third area is all of our front end and back end business logic is written in SQL, which AI is really good at. So, we're trying to really de-risk the hallucinations here.
Yeah, one piece around hallucinations. So one area that we focus a lot on is turning problems that LLMs hallucinate a lot on into problems that they are better at. So to give one example, right, because of the ways that transformers work, if you give an LLM a corpus, then you say, hey, what is missing from this corpus? Are any of these things missing? A lot of times it may actually return things that are in that corpus because it's not very good at doing like basically a negative diff. But you can basically chain it through multiple prompts and instead turn one of those problems into okay, hey, here's a first guess at what is missing. Can you now double check? Can you remove any of the things that are actually there and turn it into a problem that is much easier for the LLM to handle itself? So that's a big piece on our side.
Awesome. Well, I'll get one final question for you guys, and then we'll turn it over for some Q&A. If anybody in the audience has questions, we can address those. So looking ahead, what trends do you foresee shaping the future of AI startups? And how is your company prepared to adapt and thrive in that evolving landscape?
Yeah, so I guess the two pieces for us are, how will LLMs get faster, cheaper, and more consistent? And then also, how will they get better at longer reasoning tasks, and especially planning and execution? So I think from our side, the cheaper is basically that you can throw more unstructured information at things, and also that you can chain more types of prompts together to reduce the error while also not having like compounding errors over time. So, a holy grail to date, right, has been like people talking about quote unquote agents, whatever you sort of take that to be, of, hey, being able to autonomously do a task. A really big piece of that is like basically getting the LLMs to be more consistent, or on the other side, getting them better at doing like planning and execution. For the most part, they can't do that today, and so you have to do all of that for them as you're kind of building the workflow itself to tell them, okay, hey, in order to do this task, do this step, then do this step, then do this step, and kind of prompt those things together. So I think those are kind of the two pieces that we're really excited about.
I'm probably gonna say the same thing, but with different words. is like basically what we're doing is like we're automating content production for marketers at Higgsfield with our own AI technology, and we're thinking about how does the future look like? How many agents are going to be involved in content creation? Maybe there will be one agent responsible for producing concepts, second for producing raw scenes, third for reviewing those raw scenes, fourth agent actually combining those multiple approved scenes together and doing post-production. And we are trying to understand our value in this chain, because it is clear that large companies are going to take most piece of the pie, and we're trying to figure out how smaller companies can fit in there.
How changes in AI will affect our business? I mean, I think innately we're all startups here, so we're all nimble, and this is where I think for us, it's to our advantage, honestly. We're in the financial industry, and the financial industry moves very, very, very slow. So for us, we can release a product next week. It might take 2, 3, 4 years for like a larger financial institution to like figure out what the right way to do it is for them. So, but I think that's innate in all startups because we're smaller teams. We can do things quicker. We can get feedback from our customers quickly and iterate quickly. There's a lot of bureaucracy in a lot of the larger companies.
I can actually speak firsthand to that. I had Anelia speaking with our team, and we said, hey, this is great technology, but we're not ready to adopt it yet. So to your point, it is something that there's a lot of risk out there for a company to adopt a technology that's new and getting our people trained up and moving forward with it. But if you don't move forward with it, then one of your competitors will. and you're going to be at a competitive disadvantage. So to your point, I think the technology is moving in at a faster clip than companies might be willing to adopt it and trust it.
The way I think about it is most software companies will be building with AI to some extent in the future. We want to basically be selling shovels in the gold rush where developers will find our platform to be so easy to build with that it just makes sense to not directly build on top of OpenAI and go with us so they can focus on building a product people love instead of doing all of the backend engineering to handle some stupid errors on their LLM calls.
Great. Well, we'll open it up to Q&A, and then after that, we've got a little bit of a networking session afterwards that you can all stick around for, but let's go ahead.
My co-founder and CTO is yelling open source at me.
I mean, I think it's almost like you have to work with what you're given in the environment, and I think that's what we're looking at. I don't think anyone is going to be steamrolled if you work appropriately with like your partners. Like when the iPhone first launched and Uber figured out, we could build a business on top of the iPhone. I think that they're building a very generic product where there wouldn't be very specific like hyper verticalized products like what Higgsfield is building. So I think it's kind of, I don't think Sam Altman is going to steamroll anyone. He's going to build what he's going to build, which is an operating system. And that doesn't do everything for everyone. It does very specific things that you'll see that it's good at and what it needs help with other partners for. So.
Yeah, just wanted to also to quickly cover, I believe that's a lot. So I think OpenAI revenue is counted in billions of dollars a year. And some companies are making billions of dollars a year in AI consultancy. So Accenture famously made $600 million in AI consultancy in Q1. And there is definitely a lot of value in deploying those models in virtual private clouds on-premise. I think OpenAI is not tapping this category just yet. And that's just one example which I'm aware of. And I'm sure there are many other basically use cases which OpenAI is not covering.
Go ahead.
This is a really good question. I have spent so much time talking to VCs about that. You are right. It's so hard to stay competitive for the talents who can actually train large models. I would say that's why we probably are observing more and more companies are opening offices in New York. At Higgsfield, we are opening a product and engineering office in the UK. And I believe we actually are seeing more and more teams going remotely as well.
We're a remote first company, and so I think that helps with, hiring people who don't want to, are super talented, who don't want to wake up early in the morning. We have flexible work hours, so there's 6 hours where we do have to overlap because we're still a team, we have to solve problems together. And then secondly, I think it's just like if you're like really hardcore machine learning AI expert, you're probably starting a company, or you're working at Meta or like, I don't know, Netflix for some absurd amount of money. And so it's really, really hard to recruit these people. For us, we've just been focusing on like areas like our time stream database. Like, isn't this super exciting and interesting? And, you can go do that work. So, we focus on a part of our technology that's nerdy and geeky enough to rope in the right engineers.
I'll just add to that I think it was Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful, added that, a salary is basically a drug to keep you in your place, right? And don't get me wrong, if you go and work for Meta, you're going to get equity-based compensation as the price rises. You're going to end up getting a lot of return on investment from your time in that regard. But you're not going to get the same amount of equity as you do go and work for a Series A, Series B, C, D startup. you're going to get a lot more equity. Being employee number 27 is a lot different than being employee number 2,700, right? So I think there's definitely advantages to working for early stage companies that still let you sleep in as well.
I honestly don't know whether anyone can say 10 years, so maybe I'll just say like 3 to 5 years. I mean, I do think that there's a lot of jobs where you basically just have teams of people that are executing the same thing over and over again, right? And I think a lot more of those jobs will go away. So like, let's take something like an SDR team at like a startup where their job is just like get people on the phone or like have the first meeting, build pipeline. I think very likely it'll just move to like a single like person that will be responsible for managing all of that technology that will do all of those types of jobs. Within 10 years, it's like, okay, do you believe that we're going to hit something AGI-like or not, right? Because that's kind of going to maybe like the anti-Sam Altman question. It's like, okay, look, if any of these foundation models hit something that can do like gigantic planning and ongoing things like that, then like a lot of what we're doing probably goes out the window, but like a lot of white collar work goes out the window in general, and we just have to sort of figure out what that world looks like.
Yeah, I was thinking a lot about AI businesses on my sort of today in preparation for the talk, and I was thinking back to, the first sort of revolution that happened in my career, which was mobile, and thinking about the successes that came out of that and how long it took. It took many years to have billion-dollar businesses based in mobile. For example, probably one of the first ones was probably something like Uber. And what was interesting about it was taking something that could only be done on mobile, which was GPS, combining that with an actual real need. If you ever tried to catch a cab in San Francisco prior to Uber, it was basically impossible. Like, you'd call the dispatcher and they'd be like, yeah, we'll send someone. And then like 2 hours later, like nothing would ever show up. Like, you could only catch one from maybe Fisherman's Wharf in like a line of taxis. So basically, this was a real problem, like a serious problem. Combined with a technological solution and then a novel interface. So being able to watch the car as it like moved to you using GPS on your phone. These three things combined created sort of this magical experience. And I think I was really disappointed in blockchain. Not because the technology is great, and we had a lot of people, very smart people working on the technology, but nobody was working on the other two parts, which were what is the real need, and then how do we create a wonderful user experience that makes this magical and makes something really worth doing. And I don't want to see the same thing happen with AI. Actually, I see more potential in AI. I see a potential that this technology, which is very interesting, and there are a lot of smart people working really hard on the technology, but screw Sam Altman. Like, he's working on the technology. Who cares about that? Like, that's the baseline. He's like the guy making the iPhone. Okay, great. You can be Steve Jobs. Go ahead. But you guys have the opportunity to sort of be the Uber, right? So how do you take a platform and a technology combined with what's a real need that people actually like, a real need, not like some, don't worry about the technology, a real need and and this is the hardest part. And I think, honestly, I'm someone who works on interfaces and user experience, and I think we're greatly underappreciated in the industry. And I think people really don't think that much about how to take, these two things and tie them together with these magical experiences. We do get magical experiences. I don't want to say that there aren't, because we get some really cool ones. But when you see it, you're like, wow, this is, and I can't predict what the use cases for AI are going to be. You guys are much closer to it than I probably am. But thinking about your companies, what are those magical experiences that really just make things like, wow? And I think AI has definitely the potential to do that. I want to just see more of it. Like, what are those interfaces? What does that look like? I don't want to type things into chat boxes anymore. So I'm sorry, I don't want to put things into like, give me something more.
I think you had an opinion on open source.
Oh yeah, we got to get an opinion on open source.
Yeah.
That's TigerEye's co-founder. That's our CTO.
Proprietary models are purely AI. So if you're like an AI company using like OpenAI or Anthropic, it's kind of, how much value are you bringing to the new technology?
Right.
I think the new technology is mostly out in the open source world. And that's where it's being shared, so you don't have one person dominating. And it's easy to do, very easy.
One is like leaders who are looking to adopt new technology, or maybe like early adopters, something like that, and therefore like seeing AI kind of helps, but then a lot of times they have to be educated a lot more. So like they'll come to you and they'll be like, hey, like I've heard about this like chatbot thing. Can you build us a chatbot to do X, Y, Z? And it's like, okay, but that would be a terrible workflow for a chatbot. And then I think the other piece is more people where, you know, you are selling to them and then the solution really matters, but then also explaining to them like why they can't get this from their existing providers that maybe do something similar is really important. And then explaining that like AI layer becomes a part of that. So if I'm telling somebody like, hey, your sales reps can take, 75% more meetings because they're spending less time, sending follow-up emails, things like that, they're gonna be like, okay, but why doesn't HubSpot allow me to do that today? And then you have to kind of explain that piece of like what your secret AI sauce is, that kind of thing.
Talking about AI definitely gets people interested. I think it's such a hot topic. It might be overused now. It's getting to this point where it's almost overused in Silicon Valley, at least. I think Google had Google I/O yesterday, and they spoke about AI, God knows how many times. I think it's, but it definitely gets people's ears and eyes, interested, and they're like, where is the AI? How is it going to help me? And that's where you can kind of get them in. And if you don't show that value, they immediately just are not interested. So it does help though, just to talk through it.
Our sales cycles still start with the pain point. What pain are we solving for you? Of course, everyone cares about AI. They deeply want to know how AI works with our product, and that's certainly something that's on top of their mind. It feels like budget's being created for the first time for new technology, because if you're like a Fortune 500 company in the C-suite, you're really thinking, you're opening up the newspaper every day, and if you're not leveraging AI to be more productive, like you're probably feeling, especially if you're a CIO, you're feeling like you're not doing the job. So I think it is top of mind. Budget's being created, and it's really exciting.
Well, at the risk of aging myself, I just wanted to mention that I feel like there were a couple of points in my life really seeing technology take off. First, really the advent of the internet. Yes, I'm that old. And two, really seeing the use of iPhone coming out and changing how we perceive all that. And now we're kind of going into that third phase. And one thing that we know is that AI is going to transform our lives. It's going to transform the jobs that we do. It's going to transform how we interact with one another. It's going to change how we perceive things, right? So one thing for certain is we are just scratching the surface. But that those people that are scratching the surface are the people that are right here in front of you and in San Francisco, and this is really the bleeding edge. Again, sometimes we need to remind ourselves of the bubble that we live in, and I just want to take a moment to say thank you guys for sharing your evening with us. You're all amazing.